Hello everyone, and welcome to MSBA's Capital Watch for Friday, April 29th, our look at the developments with the Missouri General Assembly. And joining us from our Governmental Relations Office in Jefferson City is our Associate Executive Director for Advocacy and our Chief Lobbyist, Mike Reed. And Mike, as we're recording this program, we are down to the final 2 weeks of the legislative session, and that's always an active time in Jefferson City, isn't it?
Yes, it's a very active time. There are all kinds of bills passing back between the House and the Senate, and numerous amendments are being placed on pieces of legislation. It's keeping us very busy, making sure that we see and we read each one of the bills to see how they're affecting students in the state of Missouri and school boards. So it's a very, very active time, and for the next 2 weeks, we'll be rather busy.
And Mike, one of the accomplishments of the legislature so far this session, they did pass the state budget a little earlier than normal, including funding for elementary and secondary education. Where does that stand?
Yes, it's on the governor's desk. It's interesting, this year the budget got passed several weeks before the time that it was mandatory to have it passed. It has to be passed by the Friday before, 1 week before the last Friday of the session. So it was several weeks ahead of time. It's on the governor's desk. There is an increase in the foundation formula of approximately $71 million. Of that, at least $50 million is real money. There's a question on the rest of it being lottery and gaming money. So there is an increase in the formula, plus there's a $5 million increase in transportation. So we're very happy for that. The formula is still underfunded, but we're very appreciative of the fact that we got more money than we did last year. In tight budget years, it's always good to at least to have something more than we had before.
And speaking of the underfunding of the formula, Mike, as the formula stands now, we're nearly $500 million underfunded from the targets established by the legislature when it passed this formula several years ago. But that underfunding amount could change because of some legislation that would modify what's called the state adequacy target and put a cap on that. And that bill is now on the governor's desk, isn't it?
That bill is on the governor's desk. It reinstates the 5% growth cap on the state adequacy target. That cap was removed from the foundation formula several years ago. It was removed in anticipation that gaming revenue would continue to grow at a higher rate than it has. So what has happened is the cap has been put back on. The brakes, in essence, have been put on the growth of the formula. And if, in fact, this stays as law, the 5% cap on growth in the foundation formula, then the funding will be, the formula will be underfunded by approximately $140 million. Still a large amount of money, but not the $400 million that it was before. We're being criticized because we have not come out against that, stating, some people state, well, you know, you are asking now for less money from the General Assembly. What we're asking for is a reasonable amount of money and money that we can count on for funding for public schools. And so let's be realistic. Let's all of us be realistic on what is anticipated and what can be reached.
Another bill, Mike, that we are concerned about that has come out of the House deals with tax credits for certain students that possibly could be used for private schools, essentially a voucher bill, isn't it?
It is, and it sounds like this whole time that we've been talking, we've been talking about money and we haven't been talking about students. Well, we're talking about both. In this instant, it is a scholarship of types. It's a tax credit for students to be used, a certain group of students to be used that could go to private or public schools. It's a draw on the money that it will be available to public education, and it's a reduction of that. And it is a voucher program. I don't like to use the word voucher. That creates, that's what it is, but that starts a war of words. But it is reduction, and it's removing public money and giving it to students to take to private education. It's a slippery slope, and it's something we need to watch.
And Mike, that bill has passed the House. What are its prospects in the Senate?
Well, it has passed the House. There's 2 weeks left. It has not gotten a hearing in the Senate yet, and its prospects in the Senate are rather slim. But that being said, it doesn't mean that a senator cannot try to put that amendment as that bill on as an amendment to another piece of legislation. So we have to be very careful, and we will let our members know about that, and so they should let their senators know that this is not a good piece of legislation for students in the state of Missouri.
Another issue that's received a lot of attention this session, Mike, has to do with civics education and the tests that our high school students are required to take. Where does that legislation stand now?
Well, the Civics Education Bill has passed both the House and the Senate. A different version has passed both the House and the Senate. It looks like it is on its way for passage. What it does is it incorporates civics education and the civics test into the current education system that we have, teaching government, Missouri Constitution, U.S. Constitution, and it incorporates the citizenship test, the 100-question citizenship test, into that education and into that curriculum. It is something that we should be teaching anyway, and I'm sure we already are, so it just incorporates that into what we're doing.
Another issue that's received some attention this year, Mike, has to do with youth suicide awareness policies, and we've had some bills on that, haven't we?
Yes, this is a very troubling situation that it appears a growing group of deaths through youth suicide, through bullying, through other situations, and there is a bill that has passed the Senate and is in the House, a bill that's passed the House and is in the Senate, to making sure that districts have policies and have training for teachers to be aware of youth suicide and the idea of how we can help and how we can spot this ahead of time. So it's a very important situation. We have to make sure that our kids are protected at school, and this is a bill about kids, and it's about time we're talking about kids instead of money.
And Mike, as we mentioned, 2 weeks left in the legislative session, and this is the time of year when we do have to be very vigilant about all kinds of bills and amendments being added, and things can really change day to day, can't they?
Things change hour to hour in the General Assembly. This is the time that you may expect emails and e-blasts from us, letting you know where things are and how we need your help in talking to reps and senators about how the education groups need their support in various pieces of legislation that are going through the General Assembly.
All right, Mike Reed, thanks a lot for being with us. We always appreciate your insight into the developments in Jefferson City, and good luck in the final 2 weeks of the legislative session. And we thank you for joining us on this latest edition of MSBA's Capitol Watch.